What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Podex, fueled by Goat Fuel. We are on the final three. This is episode 30 of 32, where we talk about and dissect all 32 NFL teams' 2022 NFL offseason as we gear up for the NFL regular season, which kicks off September 8th with Bills at Rams on ring night. Once again, joining me on the show, habitual pain in my side, who just recently joined Instagram with a personal account. It's Blaine Spencer of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, my man. It's a Saturday morning for me. I was texting you beforehand that I was really dragging my legs today, but we're ready to talk some Chiefs. Final three for you. How you finally gotten there? So you're
It's a long ride.
Finish line's in sight. Finish line's in sight.
It is. It is. And I just real quick, I want you guys to know, the listeners and the watchers, that aren't family and friends, that aren't that familiar with me. This has been a lot of work. I'm very dedicated to the cause, but we're gonna have to revisit this format for next year because
see, man, that's why I'm doing divisional breakdown.
So this is the thing.
Four teams.
I did divisions last season, and first of all, not only did I forget to do a division, but I also realized last season, and I think it's just maybe because of like I was still kind of, and I still am relatively new to this, but like, and this is, we'll get into the show in a second. I mean, we're already recording. Let's just leave it in here. Like, I think last season, what I realized when I watched back was like, there were some teams, there's just a lot more to talk about with others. And not all four teams didn't get that same love. And I felt like it'd be much better to just give all 32 teams at least 30 minutes than to like do 8 episodes by division and then like not every team get that same love. I might have to revisit.
I mean, I can relate to that because I had you and Justin Marshall on my show about 2 weeks ago, and we did the NFC North as my divisional breakdown debut. We're just gonna vent now of like how bad we are at this stuff. So
let's get it out the way.
Which is like we'll get into the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't worry, they'll be fine. But him and Marcus and Justin went in for at least a 35 to 40 minute rant.
Oh yeah, it was good.
Easily about.
It was good though.
It was good content. Yeah. I just had to kick back, relax. I didn't have to my God. I had my hands like this, my feet were up. It was nice. It was on great. The Green Bay Packers. I kid you not.
You would think, and here's the thing about that.
Less time to do the other 3 teams than what we did on the Packers.
It's funny. You would think that me and Justin didn't like each other. It got heated. I love Justin though. Justin's my guy. And if Justin's watching,
then you guys were completely contradicting each other on how the Packers were going to perform.
It's always happened. And Justin, if you're listening or watching this, I love you. But like it got really hot. If you haven't watched that episode of Blaine's or listened to that episode of Blaine's show where we talked about the NFC, we spent like a good 35 minutes. Let's be more specific. We spent a good 20 minutes going back and forth about whether or not it was Super Bowl or bust for the Packers this season. That's really what because we were done.
We were done with my episode after that with NFC South with the 4th man up, Joe Ciccoletti. If you haven't go listen to that episode. He literally dives in. I was like, I don't want to go into this topic about the Tampa Bay Bucks, but it's Super Bowl or bust. And I was like, where's Dwayne Marcus when I need him right now to start firing back my man here?
Yeah, it was really, we were done with the segment and moving on, but Justin and I were just going back and forth about Super Bowl or bust for like a good 20 minutes. It's good stuff.
To define what's a Super Bowl and what's a bust.
Yeah, it is. I think it's all relative, but despite that, because look, listen, spoiler alert. There's an episode coming down the pipeline about the teams that are Super Bowl or bust this season. The Packers ain't on it. I'll tell you that right now. But this team might be on it. I don't know. I haven't finished it. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, who I would say of the 4 teams in the AFC West are fielding a worse team heading into week 1 this season than they are last season. And that's despite the fact of them bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster, bringing in Marquez Valdez-Scantling from my Packers, and then also drafting Sky Moore. And you think, well, you add 3 wide receivers to the wide receiver room. How did they get worse? Well, of course, you still got Travis Kelce. You still have Mecole Hardman. You do lose Tyreek Hill. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. For me, the loss of Tyrann Mathieu is just for a really bad defense. that was already not that good, to lose your best player on defense, and the defense isn't that good, that's a bit alarming. But when you look at Juju, MVS, and Sky, obviously you have Mecole Hardman in there as well. We've and if you guys have watched, we've kind of done this where we've kind of looked at the best duos, and we've kind of done that on the Vikings show and on some of the other shows. But this receiving core as a whole, not including Travis Kelce, because obviously he just pushes over the edge. But if you just look at Juju and MVS and Sky Moore and Marquez Valdez, like, where does that put the Chiefs when you're talking about entire wide receiver rooms? Because you've got, I'm on record as being really hard on Juju Smith-Schuster, okay? Because Juju has had, off the top of my head, I think 1, maybe 2 games where he's had 100 yards plus since AB left Pittsburgh. That's not a wide receiver 1 to me. And that's why Juju's not in my top 15. He's not in my top 20 either. But Juju is, I guess, the de facto wide receiver 1 on this team because he's the best wide receiver they have.
Travis Kelce is the wide receiver 1.
Well, he is. But I mean, when we're talking about guys that are listed on the depth chart, I agree with you. But when we're talking about the guys that list on the depth chart of wide receiver, he is going to be wide receiver 1. He'll be playing the X. Does this group of 4, does this make you feel good about the offense without Tyreek Hill, given that they've brought in 3 new guys and they still have Mecole Hardman? Or do you think that the loss of Tyreek Hill is just irreplaceable, despite the fact that they've brought in 3 new guys?
I think the loss of Tyreek Hill is irreplaceable. And here's my reason why. Is that, you have a similar skill set in Hardman who can do kind of what Tyreek Hill was doing, right? From a skill set wise, with his speed, doing those jet sweeps, those wide receiver screens, the go routes, of course. But I think what that is sometimes taken for granted is Tyreek Hill's willingness to go inside the hashes, though, as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
The guy is tough. He may sometimes, people forget that in college, he was a running back. So, he's not afraid to go in between the numbers and go against defensive linemen, linebackers, strong safety, stuff like that. Because he was more of a scat back in college, and then he was fully transitioned to the wide receiver once the Chiefs picked him up. So I feel like that's an aspect that really just hasn't been looked at as deeply as I think we should.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, I'm leaving Mecole Hardman out of this because I think he's going to be the second biggest weapon behind Kelce this year. But I think it's going to be trying to figure out the dynamic now of that wide receiver room. Because personally, I would put Sky Moore in above the other 2. Just because of what Sky, I know he comes from a small school at Western Michigan, drafted out of the 2nd round. The man is a gamer, though. If you go back and watch some of his film, the man is an absolute gamer. He was always going against the best defensive back. I know it's the MAC, but in those games that he was playing larger competition, the man was still performing.
Yeah.
Like last year, he had over 1,200 yards, and the team was atrocious. He was like a reason for a couple of their wins and even being competitive last year and being even bowl eligible. So I think Sky Moore is going to be an interesting component. I think he'll be a lot more in the slot. I think this is more of a hindrance to Marquez Valdez-Scantling more than to Juju Smith-Schuster, right? Because MVS, the way he was utilized in Green Bay, he's the deep ball guy, right? Deep post, skinny post, fly route. He was more of just the guy that utilized his speed and his jump ball ability and let him go get it, right? So I think his ability might be hindered the way Kansas City runs its offense now. I think it's going to be completely oriented around Travis Kelce. It's going to be a lot more short routes and run after yards after catch than Patrick Mahomes just slinging it 60 yards down the field to Tyreek Hill. Or I don't think Mecole Hardman is going to be utilized in that regard. I think he's still going to be utilized how he was already used as with jet sweeps, screens, quick passes, slants. I think it's going to be more of dink and dunk type football with Kansas City this year And Andy Reid's done that. He knows how to evolve. Eric Bieniemy is one of the best minds. I still don't understand why he doesn't have a head coaching job. It's absolutely ridiculous in my mind. But that's a conversation for another day. So, and the thing with Juju, I think we're both on the same page that he's not a wide receiver one. He has not performed. As soon as he becomes a wide receiver one, and oh my God, the TikToks, man, just like, dude, what are you doing? I get it that, and now, with Patrick Mahomes' brother, him and Juju are going to be viral within like 24 hours. So with them combining their TikToks, but I think Juju's game hasn't really evolved to how the game has changed a little bit since he's been in the league. He's more of a wide receiver too. He's more of a pure route runner, right? He predicates himself on his routes and getting open with his quick turns, quick hard hedges when it comes to his route running. So, but I think MVS is going to be in trouble. I think it's going to be a completely different look to the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
Here's my beef with Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm just looking at his stats the last 3 years as far as receiving is concerned. He had 552 yards receiving in 2019. Granted, he only played 12 games, but he had 552 yards in 2019. He had 831 receiving yards in 2020. He had 129 receiving yards last season, which is 1,512 altogether in 3 seasons.
Right.
That total is just 100 yards shy of the total he had in 2018. He had 1,426 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. The season before that, his rookie season, he had 917 touchdowns and 7 touchdowns as wide receiver 2. I get it, right? Juju missed 12 games last season due to injury. Okay. He missed 4 games in 2019 due to injury. I get it. Okay. He only played 14 games in 2020. But Juju's not a wide receiver 1. I mean, we've seen players miss games. Maybe not 12 games, obviously, but we've seen players miss 3 or 4 games and still play good ball and still be a threat to no one's scared of Juju. And it's not that Juju's a scrub, but Juju's not a wide receiver 1. And this wide receiver room, it's okay. It's not.
I think it's 3rd in the division.
It's not great. I think you can make an argument it's the worst in the division. I'll be honest with you.
You think the Raiders have a better one than them? I would put Chargers in
the argument for me would be is this wide receiver room better than the Broncos wide receiver room? And I think it's the other way. I think the Chargers have the best wide receiver room in football.
They have the best,
undoubtedly. They might have one of the best in football. You look at the Raiders. You've got Hunter Renfrow. You have Darren Waller. You have Devontae Adams. There is a lack of depth because a lot of their young wide receivers either don't know how to drive the speed limit.
With Vegas, or who's the depth issue?
Yeah, they either can't drive the speed limit or they can't drive sober. That's the issue with the depth. And Denver's issues with their wide receiver room, especially with the top 2, is injury. But like me personally, I think that the Las Vegas Raiders have a much better, like, especially once you start looking at what both Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs can do in very limited sample size, of course, but what they can both do as pass catchers out of the backfield. This wide receiver room, it's not terrible. It's not bad, but this is not.
It's not like
scary wide receiver room right now. This is not a wide receiver room that I see top defenses in football struggling with this season.
Right.
And when you look at the Chiefs' schedule, they play a handful of top defenses from last season and a couple that could be top defenses this season. The only thing about this wide receiver room that I will say, though, it's to your point about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I agree with you that there might not be as many deep shots down the field as we saw last season because that accounted for 25% of the offense. I don't know if it'll account for that same percentage this season because that's what Tyreek Hill was doing. I do, however, think, though, that the combination of Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore both being deep ball guys that can go get it down the field could cause problems if they don't abandon the deep ball this season without, like, if you're keeping that same 25.1% production of deep, which it's really not 25.1%, it's like 15%, I think. Whatever the percentage is, if you keep that intact and you have two guys that can go get it down the field instead of one guy and just Tyreek Hill, maybe that benefits you. But if you look at the Chiefs' schedule, right? The Chiefs, let me just see if I can. The Chiefs play the Chargers twice, obviously, which I think that's going to be an elite defense this season. They've got Indianapolis. I think that's going to be a great. First of all, they're starting off the season with against five potentially top 10 defenses in football this season with the Chargers, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, and Buffalo. And if they're healthy, San Francisco is going to be a tough defense to play against as well. You've got Tennessee. That's not a bad defense. Of course, you have the Chargers again. You got to play the champs at home. They've got a solid defense. I think the Bengals defense could be slightly better this season than it was last season. It wasn't that great last season, but it wasn't terrible. You got Denver, of course. Their defense is expected to be just as good as it was last season, if not better, right? Like, you're not playing – there aren't many games aside from Seattle and Houston and Arizona, and even Arizona is a question mark where you're looking at defenses that are bad. Like, a lot of these defenses are well balanced where they can get after the passer and they can blanket the field in coverage with the secondary. This is going to be tough, especially when you don't have a guy as a wide receiver that's not named Travis Kelce that's going to make the defense think twice. Like, no one's going to be really afraid to put Juju in one-on-one coverage. I mean, let's just be honest.
No.
Let's just be honest. There's going to be some bracketing, of course, against Travis Kelce, but as great as Travis Kelce is, that very rarely works. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, but right now I'm not that confident in the wide receiver room. I have supreme confidence, though, in Travis Kelce, who's been tight end one fantasy football every season, really since he's been in the league, except for last season. I think last season, I don't know who tight end one was last season, but it wasn't Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is going to be the best tight end in football this season, statistically. I don't think he is the best tight end. I think it's George Kittle, but George Kittle has an injury problem. I think, though, and I'm off the top of my head, I don't think it's ever happened. I have Travis Kelce as my dark horse MVP candidate and my dark horse offensive player of the year candidate. Just off the simple fact that, like, there's that trust there with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And if Travis Kelce is already hovering around 1,200, 300, or 1,200, 1,300 receiving yards with Tyreek Hill there, I'd like to think that Travis Kelce might just creep towards 1,500, especially given that I think in the first half of the season, especially, they're going to be relying on him a lot. Like,
he's going to get triple teamed, dog.
Yeah, when has that ever stopped him before, though? When has that ever stopped him before? I wouldn't bet on it. But he is – no tight end's ever won anything of any magnitude in the NFL. Like, I'm not – it's possible. I think we see Travis Kelce do insane things, which is crazy to think because Travis Kelce has been doing insane things from the tight end position since he's been in the league. But no, like, if we're talking about the 25.1% of offensive production that Tyreek Hill is now leaving in Kansas City, a bulk of that's going to go to Travis Kelce, just off the pure fact of trust alone.
Probably.
Yeah. So we're talking about a guy who already accounts for a solid 25-30% himself, where in the passing game, at least, we're talking about a situation where he could be looking at 40, maybe 45% of the, like, that's
right.
It's scary to think of when the guy wasn't getting that at first and he was still racking off 1,000-yard receiving seasons like it was nothing. And it has nothing to do with the fact that Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback, because Travis Kelce doesn't get a lot of deep balls. I mean, we've seen him, like, a lot of Travis Kelce is just 5-10 yards from the line of scrimmage. Now I'm going to run down your defense for another 40 or 50, which I think is something that people don't acknowledge a lot with Travis. But no, Travis, it's a crazy thing to say out loud. Of course it is, because it's a tight end, and a tight end's never won anything. And the MVP thing is a stretch. But offensive player of the year, I think it's well within Travis Kelce's reach, just because someone's got to pick up those offensive production shares. And I think just the no-brainer is it's going to go to Travis Kelce, at least in the first half of the season until Juju and MVS and Sky Moore like get that in-game chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. Because it's one thing to have training camp chemistry, but having in-game chemistry is it's a whole nother thing.
Sure. No, all right. So I think he could have a monster year, right? We've seen tight ends in the past who are the number one option go absolutely berserk. We've seen it with Tony Gonzalez on the Chiefs before, as well as even when he was in Atlanta, right? You had it with Antonio Gates when the Chargers were still in San Diego. You've seen glimpses that it's possible that a tight end as your number one option can flourish. And you're right. I think he's gonna. There's no question that statistically speaking, he's going to be absolutely bonkers this year when it comes to. I think we can make the argument. What was last year? Let me see on top of my head. I think it was
last year. Travis Kelce had 92 receptions on 134 targets, and he had 1,100 yards.
1,100 yards. So
the season before that,
he'll have over 100 receptions without question.
Of course.
He'll probably at you. So even if we just add 10 more catches, right? So that puts him over the 100-yard mark. He's probably going to be around the 1,400 to 1,500-yard receiving mark. That puts him right there as probably like the third or fourth best wide receiver weapon.
If I'm not mistaken, he goes 1,500 this season. He also – no, that's not true. Maybe it is true. I don't know. I don't know what the record is that Calvin Johnson said, but if I'm not mistaken –
Calvin was just under 2,000 yards.
That's what I thought. I know if he goes 1,500, he'd have the most receiving yards ever for a tight end, which I think he.
It's such a hard. It depends now how many games he plays in, though. That's the problem now because of the 17th game. There's going to be that asterisk that is going to take away from him.
Well, I mean, Travis Kelce doesn't have an injury history. Like Travis Kelce usually.
No, so he'll probably play.
But I mean, here's the thing, though, right? Like Travis Kelce last season played 16 games. He missed one game, and I think it was the last
game of the year
because they already which is usually how it goes. Is Travis Kelce plays all the games of the season until the last week because the Chiefs have already clinched their playoff spot. So we're talking about a situation where Travis Kelce is going to play 16 games. He's already getting roughly 100 receptions a game, and he averages 12, 13 yards a reception. So when you take away Tyreek Hill,
he already has the most receiving yards in a season.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's from 2020 when he had
1,400 yards. He's going to beat that right there.
So if he beats that, that's not even an ad. That is we don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, and now we're going to lean on him a lot more. And it is possible that as the season wanes on, that maybe his production drops because defenses just throw everybody at him, and then that opens things up for Juju and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Scott. But again, we've seen Travis Kelce get doubled and tripled, and he's just a freak of nature, and it just doesn't matter. And I honestly believe if Travis Kelce goes for 1,500, if we're talking about like prop bets for players for this season. If there's one thing that I think is almost a lot
over on Travis Kelce,
it's Travis Kelce going for 1,500. I think that's the closest thing there is to a lock this season is Travis Kelce at 15. And if Travis Kelce's at 15, he's not going to be MVP because it's a quarterback dominated award, and it's going to take a lot of other crazy things.
He's got to be close to Calvin's number if he wants to even be in the consideration.
Of course, he'd have to be close to Calvin's number. But as far as offensive player of the year, I think strong consideration goes there. Unless we see another situation like we have in the past where the quarterback's season is just so historically great that he takes both.
Right.
But I think the last quarterback to take both was Lamar.
Yeah, I think it was Lamar.
Yeah. And that's because he was the unanimous MVP. So, I mean, he's a big dude. He's damn good at what he does. Like, it's just,
it's effortless too. It's effortless, right?
Isn't it?
It's almost like I almost want to compare it to like early Gronk, but like because early Gronk had Aaron Hernandez on the other side, it was kind of like easier for him because they had two outstanding tight ends. Yeah. But like just the way it's so casual, right? It's not like he's over exerting himself trying to run the route. It's all feel, right? It is. Zone here, perfect. Turn, sit. It's already on him before he even basically by the time he turns around. When it's man-to-man, he's not rushing himself. He just knows that he's going to body the safety that he's usually going up against. I'm intrigued to see how many guys are going to move their corner inside to cover him. That's what I want to see.
We're going to see a lot of
argument that you're going to see a lot of corners pick him up because of how they're not scared of the wide receivers on Kansas City.
It's possible. I mean, they're going to have
to. The issue is a lot of these corners, they don't like playing in the slot, right?
Yeah, that's not. I wouldn't want to line up if I'm a cornerback in the NFL, even if I got to go up against Travis Kelce.
Why? Because they want to make sure they get that bag, so they know it's not going to come their way, so they can avoid the 0 targets that they're covering on the outside.
No, because he's 6'5", 256.
Come on.
Because he could be the WWE champion right now if he wanted to be. That's how big he is. He weighs 9 pounds less than Roman Reigns, who's the current WWE.
You probably didn't even see this, but did you see him at the charity golf event in Tahoe?
It's absurd.
He was playing so he played with Mahomes and Allen, like I think twice maybe out of those 3 days, and he was just towering over them. And him and his polo, his polo was almost like fully ripped. Like that's how buff he was, and he was trying to shrink into that thing.
He's taller than Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's 6'1", 280. Travis Kelce 6'5", 256. That's insane, bro. I wouldn't want to line up.
That's now a prototypical D end.
That's the thing. Hey, how about this? Myles Garrett 6'4", 272. This is ridiculous.
He's basically
I've got a defensive end playing tight end. I wouldn't want to line up against that either in the slot. I don't blame any of them. Listen, it comes down to really for Travis Kelce. It's really from an offensive standpoint, just how much trust Patrick Mahomes has in all of these other 4 guys heading into week 1. And also just how scared these defenses are of Travis Kelce. And they're already scared of Travis.
I think they're gonna see a lot of zone this year.
Sure. You're gonna have to. You're not gonna man up Travis Kelce. You just can't. You just can't do it. It's not gonna work. Now, obviously, there's the loss of Tyreek Hill. There's obviously again the loss of Tyrann Mathieu, who went back to Louisiana to go play for the New Orleans Saints. Which loss do you think is going to be felt more for the Chiefs? Is it the loss of Tyreek Hill offensively or the loss of Tyrann Mathieu defensively?
Oh, it's Tyrann Mathieu. I don't even think it's really close either.
Yeah.
Because he was their quarterback on their defense. He was the one pretty much running the defense, calling plays, motivating the troops, getting them in the correct positions. And they were still really bad, right? With him on the field. And he was like trying to cover up, and he covered up a lot of their holes.
He really did. Really.
They could be historically bad again, right? From like when they made the Super Bowl a couple of years ago and they ended up losing to Tampa. They were historically bad that year.
They were historically bad the year before when they won the Super Bowl.
They have not been good. But Mathieu covers up a lot of their mistakes. So they could it might be a nightmare. And no offense to is Sorensen still their other guy on the other side?
He's the worst safety in football. I don't think I've ever seen a safety as bad as Daniel Sorensen.
He is going to be absolutely murdered.
It's going to be atrocious. Daniel Sorensen made third string wide receivers look like the second coming of Jerry Rice last season. It was insane to watch, like just how bad he was. Tyrann Mathieu is it's insane. It's really insane just how great he is. I think what happens is you see great players do great things and you're like, okay, but then in this situation, like Tyrann Mathieu's greatness it just has to be put on a different level when you think about just how bad the Chiefs defense has been and how his presence alone defensively, specifically in the secondary, makes up for a lot of the mistakes that we saw on the front, in the middle, and on the back end. Like, he's just that good. This defense is going to be, we're talking about a situation where the Kansas City Chiefs, who already have a high-powered offense, who let's say for argument's sake, they'll still have let's be honest, it's hard not to have a top 10 offense when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback.
Right. They'll still be right there. They'll still put up.
They'll still have a top 10 offense. We talked about how there's going to be defenses that are going to be enjoying just how relatively pedestrian this wide receiver core is. There's going to be a lot of offenses that are going to be licking their chops at this defense as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Again, you got the Chargers twice. You got Tampa Bay. The Raiders you got twice. You got to see Buffalo, right? You're gonna have to see. You're gonna have to see the Rams. You got to see the Bengals. Denver twice. Arizona won't have DeAndre Hopkins at week 1 when they open up the season in Arizona, but that's still relatively speaking a
that game will be a shootout because no one will stop anybody because Arizona scores points in flurries because
and they can't stop a coach. The game I think that's going to be most interesting and most telling about the Chiefs, to me anyway, and how far they'll go this season, I think is the game against the Colts. It's not just because it's a road game, but it's because of all the teams that the Chiefs are going to play this season, aside from Tennessee, obviously, because they have Derrick freaking Henry, right?
Great train himself.
The Colts, I think, though, are going to have the best run game this season.
That's without question.
And it's not just because of Jonathan Taylor, because I do think that Derrick Henry is better, but it's also because they've got a better offensive line. They've got a better offensive line than Tennessee, and coaches already say that they want to use.
And they've got a major upgrade at the quarterback
position. And they have a major upgrade at the quarterback position, but also like they're already looking to use Nyheim Hines more, right? If you remember 2 years ago when Jonathan Taylor got drafted, he missed his entire rookie season with an injury. Right. And that's when we saw Nyheim Hines go crazy. And I was like, oh, well, if you look at what Nyheim Hines did, let's imagine what Jonathan Taylor did. And what did Jonathan Taylor do? He ran all over everybody. And if it wasn't for the incompetence of Carson Wentz, he would have ran the Colts right into the playoffs last season. If Carson Wentz could have just played good football one time when it really mattered, that was in Jacksonville at the end of the season, right? So you got a good quarterback who won't sacrifice the run game, who also will keep the passing game going and keep it honest. And they're looking to bring Nyheim Hines back into the fold because he was in and out of the lineup last season. Like, that's going to be a really tough game for Kansas City. That's a game I have them losing because of this is a situation where the run game could be Kansas City's demise.
Right.
Because a team doesn't even need, I think, at this point against Kansas City to get that. Every team wants to say, look, if we can get at least 100 yards on the ground and we can get at least close to 3, if not over 3 in the passing game, we've done good, right? When you're going against this Kansas City defense, you don't even need 100 on the ground. You get 75 on the ground, and you get 250 through the air, you're in really good positioning as long as you're scoring the ball and playing good defense yourself. And it is there are a lot of teams that they're playing that have really good offenses. There are a couple teams they're playing that have really good defenses, but a lot of those teams that have one or the other have both. Like the Chargers are good on both sides of the ball. So are the Colts going to be this season. Like it's going
the argument that the Colts are going to be a top 5 complete team in football this year.
I already think the Colts were a top 5 complete team, and they upgraded the quarterback position. That's really all it was. Yeah. And by the way, speaking of the Colts, can we stop disrespecting Darius Leonard? Damn it. I'm getting sick of this. Why?
No, what are we calling him now? He's got a new name.
Disrespecting.
He's not going by Darius anymore. We gotta respect. We gotta respect
what
he wants to be called by.
What is he going by?
Hold on, I'm Googling it.
What is he going?
He wants to go by Shaquille again. That's what he was called in college. He wants to be called Shaquille again.
Makes perfect
Shout out to Shaquille. We're not trying to disrespect him.
We're not. Shaquille Leonard. Look, Shaq Leonard works just fine. Point is, we need to stop disrespecting this man because he's great. And I think he's the best linebacker in football. I don't care about Micah Parsons. I don't care about Fred Warner. It's Shaq Leonard, and he's going to show it this season. I say all that to say there are a lot of concerns. Now, I'll be honest. I'm on record, and it's on these shows. I am on record as saying that it is going to be difficult for multiple teams in this division to win double-digit games because of how close this division is going to be within it itself. Not to mention that they're all going to be playing against the best of the best because basically
all playing each other so early in the year. They're going to be already beating each other up. I think each team has 2 division games within those first 6 weeks.
It's going to be tough sledding.
It's going to be a bloodbath in that division.
Denver has Denver, I think, has it the easiest because they just have.
Well, they finished last, so they're going to get.
They're going to finish last, but they also. Oh, that's not Denver's schedule. Oops. Denver has Vegas and the Chargers.
Vegas has to play all 3 for 6 weeks.
So does the Chargers. The Chargers open up against Vegas, and then they go to Kansas City, and then they play Denver in week 6.
And I think Kansas City has 2, Denver has 2.
Kansas City has 2, Denver has 2.
That's just going to be they're already going to be beaten up within those first 6 weeks. It's going to be a war of attrition.
in both of, I guess the good thing for the Raiders though is on the backstretch, and I think the Raiders going to have a solid backstretch. Is that they have 2 road games to start, and so they'll have 2 divisional games at home in the backstretch, which I think it's important. What's your record prediction though for the Kansas City Chiefs?
So I
If
keep going.
If you could put a number on it.
So I keep going back and forth. So I mean, I have them right now. I have them, I think, at 11. I think that's the number that I'm teetering around because I think you can make the argument all 4 teams are going to probably have at least 8 wins. So I think they're going to be beating each other up. So that puts Kansas City at 11-6, right?
Yep.
So I think that sounds kind of right. I think they're either going to finish first or I think they're going to be right there. The Chargers are going to be, it's them and the Chargers are going to be right there for that division. So I like 11. What do you think? Are you going to give them more? I don't think you can really give them more than 11. That's how tough of a schedule I think they have.
Well, here's the thing, and I got to be honest. These divisional games were tough to grade. They were. Kansas City is a phenomenal team at home.
Right.
Kansas City sometimes struggles on the road. This opening stretch, though, and I'll be honest, and I've gone back and forth on their opening stretch. Their first 7, they go to Arizona, they host the Chargers, they go to Indianapolis, they go to Tampa Bay, they host Vegas, they host Buffalo, they go to San Francisco, and then it's their bye. When I first started my record predictions, and this is full disclosure, right hand to God, I am not lying. When I first started my record predictions, I had the Kansas City Chiefs going 3-4 into their bye. I had them losing in Tampa Bay, and I had them losing in San Francisco. And since given them both of those wins, San Francisco was easier because of Trey Lance. Tampa Bay is still a toss-up to me. I think that game being on the road could go either way. Right now, it's not finished because I keep looking over the schedule.
You can make the argument that they could easily go 2-5.
Possible. It's possible. I'll be honest. The only 2 games I think that are for sure wins in this first 7 are the Cardinals game and the Niners game. That's it. Like, I have them losing to Buffalo. I have them losing to Indianapolis. I could see the Chargers coming to town and winning that game. I could see them going to Tampa Bay and losing. I can see the Raiders
on a short week too.
It's going to be tough. Then you get into the backstretch, and the backstretch is, you'd think, because you got Tennessee and Jacksonville and you see Houston and Seattle, and it's easier. It's not, because you got to go to LA. Then you got to play the Rams. Then you got to go to Cincinnati. Then you got to play Denver both times. This is such a nasty schedule. Right now, I have them at 12-5, and the reason I have them at 12-5 is because I have the Chargers at 12-5, and I think the Chargers are going to win the division. I don't think anyone in this division is winning more than 13 games.
No, I don't even think.
I think getting to 13, I think would take a really good game in one of those really tough ones. Because here's the thing: the Chargers and the Chiefs, obviously, have the same schedule, but when you look at the 3 teams that the Chargers have to play compared to the 3 teams that the Chiefs have to play, the extra 3 teams that the Chargers have to play are Atlanta, Miami, and Jacksonville. So the 3 extra teams that the Chiefs have to play are Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Tennessee. Those 3 games are just tougher than the Chargers' extra 3. And if the Chargers go through their division, I think the Chargers will be 4-2 in the division. If they do that, and if they do fair, if they fare well against the AFC West or the NFC West, which I think they will, I think the Chargers could sweep the NFC West. Honestly, it'll be tough against LA, but I think if there's one team that can sweep the NFC West, it's the Chargers. They're gonna the Chargers. I have their sitting at 13. I can't say that confidently for the Chiefs that they're sitting as 13. I have them at 12, but I've had them as low as 10.
Right. And I feel like the issue
all because of the first 7.
There's so many because like you mentioned, their schedule is so much more difficult, right? They already have, because they win the division every year, they have to go against the top teams. You're going against arguably the NFC West, which is you can make the argument, is the second most difficult division than their own, right?
Yeah.
So that's a flip of a coin, especially out of 3 out of those 4 games. The only team that you would probably make the argument that they're favored against significantly is Seattle. Everything else could go either way, especially with that opener is in Arizona. Arizona is one of the better home teams in football.
Yep.
And then you have the Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champs. You got Cincinnati, who was the defending AFC champs. I think it will help them that they don't have to.
And they've also lost to Cincinnati both times they played them as well.
Correct. Season. And they choked.
And they choked both times. It's not that matchup's not good. That is not a good matchup. And with Tyrann Mathieu gone, that matchup's even worse now. It's even worse. So the Chiefs, for all season, we've been saying that the Chiefs are either going to be 1 and 2. I think it's very possible that the Chiefs could be 3. I think it's possible. They won't finish last. The only team I think that can finish last is Denver.
You think Denver's going to really lay it?
I have Denver deadlocked at last. Like, not one time have I wavered on that.
Wow.
And slaughter me in the comments if you want. Send me death threats. I don't care. Don't do that, actually, because I'm not of that level of celebrity. And even if I was, I wouldn't do that. But here's the thing. The Denver Broncos have a 4th place schedule. Sure, they do. They got a 4th place schedule. But when you look at the teams that they're playing, aside obviously from the 6 games in the division, the 4th place teams that they're playing aren't that bad. You got Baltimore. Baltimore was 4th place.
That's already an L, because Baltimore only had a bad year because of injury.
Like,
they've got Houston.
Call me crazy, but here's the thing.
Jets.
When you're going into the bye against the Jets and the Jacksonville, and you come out against Tennessee, I have them winning all 3 of those games because they have the better quarterback. But Jacksonville is, I think, going to be a sneaky good team. You really can't deny Tennessee as long as Derrick Henry.
And that Jacksonville game's in London, so you never know how that comes into how you guys recover from the time lapse.
And here's the thing, too. Call me crazy. I have them beating the Jets, but I could see the Jets beating them. It's not because the team
give the Jets that much credit.
No, I'm not. No, I think the Jets are going to lose. But what I am saying though is that the Jets, the Jaguars, among other teams that they have on the schedule, are teams that you could, if you overlook, lose to. And I think it's possible that, like, we call them trap games for a reason. I think when you have when you have 2 trap games in a row, and one of them is overseas, so there's a jet lag component there. It's possible. I don't think they will, but it's possible. I definitely don't see the Broncos winning the division. That's for sure.
No, and they open up with 2 layups, right? Because they get Seattle and Houston back-to-back weeks. But then they go through a 4-game stretch where they're going to be the underdog in all 4 games, right?
I have Denver going into the bye at 5-3. I have Denver.
I thought they played. Let me see. How many games did they play? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, you can. I mean,
I have them going into the bye at 5-3.
So you have them. You can make the argument that they'll go 4-4.
It's possible
because they go San Fran at Vegas, Colts at Chargers. Then they, in that 4-game stretch, they are going to be the underdog in all 4 games.
I don't think they'll be the underdog against San Francisco.
Really?
Just because Trey Lance is the quarterback. When I first started, before the news of Trey Lance breaking, I did have them losing to San Francisco.
Right.
I did. Now, I don't know. We have to see what Jimmy G looks like. We have to see what Trey Lance looks like. I have them starting the season 5-3. I have them finishing the season 4-6 to put them at 9-8. Or 4-5 to put them at 9-8. And
that'll put them right there hovering at the playoff spot.
And here's the thing, and here's the tough part for them. They have 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 5 games on the road to close out the season. Those 5 games are against Tennessee, Baltimore, the champs, and Kansas City, and Carolina.
So 1-4.
Those are not good road games to have, especially when you're trying to push for the playoffs. I'm finishing dead last in the division at 9-8.
So do you have Vegas getting 10 then?
I do have Vegas getting 10. I have Vegas getting 10.
I have
and
flip-flop. So I would say right now I have Chargers and Chiefs both at 11.
Yep.
So I think Chargers will win on tiebreaker this year because I think they'll beat Kansas City both times this year. I really do believe that. Then I have Denver at 10, and then I have Vegas at 9.
I have so it's funny. My bottom three in the playoff picture is New England, Baltimore, and Vegas. I have all of them winning 10 games, all three of those teams winning 10 games. And the beautiful thing about that is Baltimore plays New England in week 3, and Vegas plays New England in week 15. So really, how New England fares in both of those games has a lot more to do with the Raiders and the Ravens' playoff hopes than their own.
I think
the Ravens and the Raiders
step back, man. I just don't think them having an offensive coordinator is going to hinder them.
Who?
The Pats. I think they're going to take a step back.
It's possible.
You have two guys that
the Patriots won 10 games last season.
Anything as a head coach trying to run the offense, and they're both defensive and special teams guys.
Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't make that
decision. But it is the GOAT as the head.
It is Bill Belichick.
You never know.
It's hard to question Bill. Just real quickly, just we're on the same page. Rundown. So you have Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, and Raiders.
Right, and they're all going to get 9 wins minimum.
I'll read you the exact.
Chargers and Kansas City both at 11, and then I have Denver at 10, Vegas at 9.
I'll read you my exact prediction as I have it with the seeding. I have the Chargers with the tiebreaker at 12-5 over Kansas City, who I think will also be 12-5.
2 seed or the 3 seed?
I have the Chargers as the 3 seed because I think the Bengals will win one more game than them this season,
and then the Bills will be the over.
And the Bills will be the Bills. I think are going to win 15 games this season. Will they actually win 15 games this season? Probably not. But just looking at their schedule, the only 2 losses I have for the Bills are week 1 against LA, and week 13 in New England. And the only reason why I have that being a loss is because the last time they were in.
Yeah.
It's not even the Bill Belichick component. It's just the last time they were in New England was around that time, and the weather was really, really bad, and they struggled. And if the weather is really, really bad again, they could struggle again.
Right.
Aside from that, though, they're going to beat everybody else. So once you get past that, then I've got the Raiders at 3 at 10-7, and I have the Broncos at 9-8, bringing up the caboose in the division, which puts the Chiefs as the 5th seed and the Raiders as the 7th seed. Or the 6th seed, depending on how Baltimore does in their game against New England. And then also what the Raiders do against New England as well. But if Baltimore beats New England and Vegas beats New England, then I think because of the tiebreaker, how I have it, the Ravens would be 6 and the Raiders would be 7. Denver would be technically, just looking at my records, Denver would technically be 3rd team out because I have Miami and Cleveland at 9-8, and I have both of them finishing 3rd in their division. Where Denver's going to be.
You're going Cleveland's records though completely based on Deshaun Watson only being suspended for 6 games.
It is. If Deshaun Watson's suspended for more,
it'll completely change.
It'll completely change, and I've been very hesitant to predict those games.
Right.
But just looking at the stretch for Cleveland real quick before we go, their first 6 games,
they could easily go 3-3 with Brissett in those 6 games.
So they start the season, their first 8 weeks. It's a toughie. I'll be honest. It's not fun. No. They've got Carolina, New York, Pittsburgh. I think they go 0-3 to start the season. I'll be honest. I think they'll get their first win in Atlanta. Then they'll lose to Chargers. They'll lose to the Pats. They'll lose in Baltimore. And if Deshaun Watson is only suspended for 6 games, but I don't think that'll be the case, and he comes back, I think his first game back in Game 7 will be knocking the rust off, and they'll lose. And I think they'll beat Cincinnati when Cincinnati comes to town. going into the bye, and then they'll kind of rattle off a nice chunk of wins on the back half to make the record look good if Deshaun Watson only suspended for 6.
Right.
Which will include a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 6-game win streak to close out the season. If that's not the case, though, originally when I had them projected to be suspended for a season, I had the Browns winning 5 games. And that's more so, that has less to do with what I think about Jacoby Brissett and more to do with what I think about the quarterbacks they'll be playing, especially in the backstretch, because it's not fun in the backstretch. Like, we're going to see Josh Allen.
They should go for Jimmy G. They really should make a move for him.
They should. They're going to see Tom. They're going to see Josh. They're going to see Joe Burrow. They're going to see Lamar. They're going to see Winston. They'll see Wentz, and they'll see Mitch. And because once you get past Josh and Tom, the rest, and once you get past the back four of New Orleans, Washington, and Pittsburgh, that comes down to defense. And I think their defense will get them those 3 wins.
Right.
And those will be the other 3 wins they have to close out the season. Aside from that, they better hope Deshaun Watson plays. But he won't, so it's fine.
No. Sorry, Chiefs fans. We kind of we started off the rails and we finished off the rails.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: the Chiefs are going to start off the rails and they'll finish off the rails too. So it's
perfect caveat for the episode.
It's indicative of their season. With that being said, it's always a pleasure to have Blaine on the show, even though he is a habitual pain in my side. Please, everybody.
Oh, come on!
Let everybody know.
Enjoy the habitual pain in your side.
Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, it's fun. It's a good laugh sometimes. Please let everybody know where they can find you. And what's up next?
Absolutely. You can catch the Final Whistle at the final.whistle on TikTok and on Instagram, Facebook, Final Whistle Sports Pod. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. We're pretty much on it. As we mentioned earlier, I'm doing divisional breakdowns. The next episode coming out will be the NFC West. Then it will be my horrible NFC East. I know Marcus has already been extremely adamant to be on that episode, and whether or not I tell him when the episode will be, he will probably find a way to be on said episode. So, Marcus, if you would like to be on the NFC episode to make my life miserable,
I would love to come on the NFC East episode and trash your Commanders. I'd absolutely.
All right, perfect. That sounds
I can't think of a better way to spend whatever day that's going to be than to trash the Washington Commanders. Absolutely.
Sounds perfection. I will send that out to you. But yeah, we're trying to do each divisional breakdown. We're on the NFC side still. Then it will be the AFC. Our goal is to finish right around when opening Thursday starts in September. So that'll be something to be on the lookout for. And yes, as Marcus mentioned, I am now have my own personal account on social media.
It's about damn time, bud.
Marcus still doesn't have his own personal account, so now it's for his turn to actually do that.
So I do have a personal account. It's the account I have right now.
Oh no!
I tell you all the time.
See, because of what is unfolding with the Final Whistle in the coming weeks, and be on the lookout for that. I had to make the personal one.
I get it. And I respect it.
Purely professional.
I get it. I appreciate it. So this is what happens, right? I don't post myself on Instagram, right? If you go through, I think before I started doing this, somehow I had 600 followers. I don't know why, but it wasn't 600. It was like 5 or something. But somehow I did, and I had like 3. Whatever. Point is, instead of starting new and trying to build that, I figured let's just start from what we have and kind of go. So I just took off I took off all 2 of the pictures I had of myself off of my Instagram. And so now every now and then I'll post a picture of myself. And hey, by the way, real quick, to anyone of you that follow me on Instagram that listen to this, I want an answer to this question, and I mean it. Why is it that when I post a picture of myself, you're all quick to like it, but when I tell you people that I've posted a new episode, it gets 10 likes? I don't like it. And for a while, I was blaming it on the algorithm, but that's not the algorithm's fault. I am blaming that on.
I think you're just posting at inconvenient times.
I post at 2:00 in the afternoon every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
See, that's your issue. You're not posting in prime Instagram time.
I post when the episode drops. It's not my fault.
That's the issue with us having a podcast.
I have a job, all right? I can't just look.
You gotta wait till like prime time from like what I've understood now is that you either post right when the morning begins, so when people are rolling out of bed, they're like, "Oh, Instagram, there it is," click. Or you post towards the end of the night, "Oh, I'm going to bed. Oh, there it is," click.
Either way, I find it to be highly unacceptable because a lot of you that watch,
if you want to follow my personal account,
you know me personally,
52_,
and I take it as a personal shot when you guys don't like the pictures or like the post. It's fine. It's whatever. Fact of the matter is, GP Marcus on Instagram.
You picked Tiger Woods over my golf swing yesterday. That is very hurtful.
Yeah, why would I not pick the greatest golfer of all time over?
Honestly, I'm ready.
Oh, look, your golf swing is better than mine.
If you're looking for a multi-million-dollar guy for a signing bonus, I am right there. That swing.
Your swing's better than mine, but it's not better than Tiger's. I mean, let's be honest. Listen, you guys can follow on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at GTP Marcus. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're watching, obviously you're already here. Make sure you like, subscribe, click the notification bell so you don't miss any new episodes, and subscribe. Subscribe. Hit
that button. Click it.
Please. We're trying to get to 150 by the end of the month or by the end of the year. Excuse me. We're at 127 right now. So please, if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. And also September 1st is a very important day in history. We are about 24 days away from September 1st. So please make sure you mark that on your calendars because there's some big things coming up September 1st. And then, of course, football will be back September 8th. This series ends August 19th, I believe, with the Los Angeles Rams being the final episode of the series. From August 19th until September 8th, I'll be doing a couple smaller mini-series. I'll rank quarterbacks, I'll rank wide receivers, I'll rank running backs, I'll rank defenses, offenses, coaches. I'll give my predictions. I'll also show you guys my completed payout picture, all that stuff. So be on the lookout for all of that. Most of those things will likely be YouTube exclusives just because they won't be that long. It'll just be me. I won't have a guest. So that's still up in the air, but just be on the lookout for all those things. Also, there is an interview on the way. I don't know when. I don't know where. I can't tell you with who or the what, but it is on the way. And when it is on the way, you will know about it. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably already know who this person is. So that's all I'm going to say about it. If you want to know who this person is, you can go check it out on Twitter, but don't go if you can't hold water. If you can't hold water, then don't go look because I don't want you spoiling what is going to be the biggest interview in the history of the show to date. So for Blaine Spencer of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast, whose golf swing is nowhere near better than Tiger Woods' golf swing, this is Marcus of Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, make sure you subscribe and then enjoy the rest of your lives. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then I can't tell you to enjoy the rest of your lives. That is only a courtesy that I extend to those that are subscribed to the channel. So if you want to enjoy the rest of your life, press the red button under the video and press the bell and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.